So since you've got the hang of the Pythagorean theorem, we're now going to look at word problems with the Pythagorean theorem. So a typical one is a ladder leaning against a house. It's going to make a right angled triangle. So the ladder is going to be the hypotenuse every single time it's at slant, and then how high up the house is going to be a leg, and then the base of the house or building or whatever it's leaning up against to the bottom of the ladder is going to be a leg as well. It's going to make that right angle. So it says a 13-foot ladder is leaning against a wall. If the ladder is 5 feet from the base of the wall, how high up the wall is the top of the ladder? So you can see we have a nice little picture here drawn for us. So if you're not given a picture, you need to draw the picture and go ahead and label it. Even just draw the regular triangle. It doesn't have to be anything artistic. So what we're looking at here, we have our ladder that's 13, and then we have the base of the from the wall to the bottom of the ladder, and then they're wanting to know what is the height, how high up does it go. So that's going to be one of our leg lengths. It's going to make a right angle right here. So this is going to be A or B. I'm going to call 5A, and then this side is going to be B, and then 13 is C. It's across from the right angle. So I'm going to have 5 squared plus B squared is equal to 13 squared. And if you remember your Pythagorean triple cheat code, you could probably go ahead and use that here, but I'm going to go ahead and work it out. So I have 25 plus B squared is equal to 169. And then I'm going to subtract 25 on each side, and I have b squared equals 144, and then we'll take the square root of both sides. That's how you that's the inverse of squared. It's the opposite of squared. Just like adding and subtracting are opposites, we actually call those inverses in math. And so square and square root are inverses of each other. So I'm left with b is equal to 12, and a good label here is going to be feet, since that's what everything we're talking about. So it's going to go 12 feet in the air. So you can tell how far out you need to have the base of the ladder, that sort of thing, for it to be 12 feet in the air. All right, so now let's look at example 2 here. We have a lighthouse inspector spots a ship that's 380 meters away. The lighthouse inspector is in the top of the lighthouse. The lighthouse is 88 meters tall, so that's how high up the inspector is. It's kind of sort of what we're assuming, basically. How far from the shore is the ship, assuming that the lighthouse is directly on the shore? So basically, what is this bottom piece there? So, what we have, these are some pretty large numbers, but that's okay because you can use a calculator. Since this is my right angle here, across from that is going to be 380. So that's always going to be my hypotenuse, or my C. And then the two legs, I have A that we don't know, and B is going to be 88. So I have a squared plus 88 squared is equal to 380 squared. And so then you can just square those out using your calculator. So 88 squared is going to be 7744. And then this is, then 380 squared is 144400. So 144,400. And so now I'm going to subtract 7744. And so a squared is going to be equal to 136,656. And then I'm going to, last step, take the square root of that. And so A is going to be equal to 369.7. And this is meters. So a good thing to kind of sort of double check with yourself, and we haven't talked about this yet, but that you want the hypotenuse to be the longest side. So right here we have 369, which is basically 370, and that is shorter than the hypotenuse, so we're good. If you got something that's bigger than that, cannot work out, so you'll need to go back and rework it. So there's kind of a built-in check with Pythagorean theorem. It's kind of nice. Okay, so I know that on my screen you see a colored flag, but yours is just black and white. But this is the flag of Tanzania, and the flag, if it's 25 inches tall and 34 inches long, what's the length of the stripe of the diagonal? So one thing that you may not think about making a right triangle is the diagonal of a square or rectangle, and so it does. So therefore, we can go ahead and label this. It's 25 inches tall and 34 inches long, and then they want to know what is this here. And we don't know. All right, so since that is going to be a cross, I'm going to go ahead and label this side as well, because sometimes they're labeled opposite and you're not quite sure. So go ahead and remember, with rectangles, the opposite sides are congruent. So go ahead and label those there. Here's my right angle. Across from the right angle is going to be what I don't know, which is C. So I have 34 squared plus 25 squared, if those are my A and B, and that's equal to C squared. So again, these are some pretty large numbers. And so 34 squared is 1,156, and 25 squared is 625 is equal to C squared. And then you'll just add those two together, and you get 1781 is equal to C squared. And then remember, the last step is to take the square root of that. So we have 42.2 inches. So again, we wanted to make sure that this number is larger than 34 and 25, because we have to make sure that C is the longest side. So again, there's that built in there, so it looks good. We're going from there. All right, so the figure below shows the map from a hole at the Lake Waco Country Club. How much shorter, that's the key word here. So how much shorter is the distance from the tee box directly to the green than the distance through the fairway? Okay, so are you able to make that shot there, or do you need to take the fairway shot? So good question. So let's look here. We have, here's my right angle. What am I trying to find? Well, I need to find this diagonal. So I need to find the hypotenuse, or C. But then I'm gonna have to do some figuring out after that in order to find out what the question's really asking me. So I'm gonna find this out first. So I have, I'm gonna say 220 is A and 165 is B. So I'm going to have 220 squared plus 165 squared is equal to C squared. Now, I don't know what that is yet. So 220 squared is going to be 48400 plus 165 squared. 27,225 is equal to C squared. So I'll add those two together. And I get 75,625 is equal to C squared. And then remember, the last step is to take the square root of that. And I get 275. So C is 275. So that's not what the whole answer is asking for. I need to do a second step. I need to figure out how far is it from the T from here and then around there. Well, that's going to be 220 plus 165. And it's 385. And the question is asking how much shorter. Well, to find how much shorter, I'm going to have to take the 385 and then subtract the 275 from it to find out how much shorter this is. So this is where 275 came from. It's the distance directly from the tee box straight to the hole. So how many yards basically are you saving? Looks like 90. Okay. So the answer here is 90. So you're thinking, whoa, hold up. That can't happen because C has to be the biggest side. Well, it was the biggest side and it was 275, which was bigger than the other two numbers, the leg lengths. So, but 90 yards is how much shorter the distance straight directly from the tee box to the green is compared to going through the fairway, making that right turn. So, again, this was a little bit more involved, and you just want to pay close attention to what is the question asking me. Another typical question is, you're headed south and you turn west, or you're heading north and you turn east. That's going to make the right angle. What's the distance between the two? Or it might tell you the distance and you have to find how far east you walked, that kind of sort of thing. Again, if you're not given a picture, you want to make sure that you're drawing your own picture, even just the triangle, and labeling those side links. So that's it for applying the Pythagorean theorem. You got this. You guys are awesome at the Pythagorean theorem. And so now it's your turn to practice with your skill check.